are told in prophecy that our nation, the United States of America, will repudiate every principle of its constitution. We are also told in the book of Revelation chapter 13, this nation will end up speaking as a dragon and will force the world to worship the papacy. As we have been witnessing this climate change movement, how many companies, CEOs, are being forced, and some voluntarily, to change the way they do business so that they could save the planet. We are seeing the speaking as a dragon as well, which, as they have been telling us, how we must behave, because if we don't behave a certain way, the earth will be annihilated. The earth will be destroyed. Well, I believe, once again, it's part of this rebellion. They know, at least some do, that God is going to destroy this earth because of sin. But just like Nimrod, who knew about the flood, who knew or at least estimated the height of the flood, came up with this idea to build the Tower of Babel to quote-unquote save humanity, save the planet. Notice with me carefully what this article says here. This is from the Washington Free Beacon. It says, Yang, this is Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang. He said, climate change may require elimination of car ownership. Again, he goes on to say the United States may have to eliminate private car ownership. For what reason? To combat climate change during MSNBC's climate forum at Georgetown University. So they want to take away your right to even own a vehicle. As again, they have said, and I mentioned before, they want to invade your privacy and to tell you what you can eat, when you can go to the bathroom, which side of the bed you can sleep on, all in order to save the planet. Here is the video of him explaining this.
So you have this ability to envision the future, right? With your proposals on universal basic income, you've played the whole chess game out, and you see what it looks like on the other end. Play the chess game out on climate change, the positive incentives, the regulation that Cliff was just talking about, the reduction of our weaning off fossil fuels and eliminating them possibly. What does that look like to you? What does the world look like to you in 2050? What physically do you think we will do differently than we do today that will result in us fighting climate change?
Well, I mentioned before that we might not own our own cars. Our current car ownership and usage model is really inefficient and bad for the environment. So you might have a society, you guys all probably agree with this because you're quite young. When I was your age, I was like a car, like having that car was such a big deal. I was driving like a 1985 Honda Accord that could like barely get up hills. I was like, yeah, and I was like rolling the window down like this. So what we're really selling is not the car, it's mobility. And so if you have mobility that's then tied into a much more, if you had like, for example, this constant roving fleet of electric cars that you would just order up, then you could diminish the impact of ground transportation on our environment very, very quickly. So that's a very, very clear one.
Now, brothers and sisters, some of these individuals are very ignorant to where this is leading. They are taking the world under the umbrella of the papacy, to the dragon itself. They have no idea, some have no idea where this is leading. We need to pray for some of these individuals because they are ignorant. Notice what Spirit of Prophecy tells us here. From Review and Herald Extra, December 11th, 1888. The Sunday movement is now making its way in darkness. The leaders are concealing the true issue, and many who unite in the movement do not themselves, here it is, do not themselves see whither the undercurrent is tending. They are working, how? In blindness. They do not see that if a Protestant government sacrifices the principles that have made them a free, independent nation, and through legislation brings into the Constitution's principles that will propagate papal falsehood and papal delusion, they are plunging into the Roman horrors of the Dark Ages. And the Bible tells us, as a result of the United States, of these leaders who are in darkness and not realizing, again, some of them not realizing what they are doing, they are plunging this world once again. This is what this movement is about. The climate change movement, they are plunging the world once again into the dark ages. And soon and very soon, we are also going to see the fulfillment of Revelation 12:17, which tells us, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ. This prophecy will be fulfilled in a very short amount of time, soon and very soon, brothers and sisters. Now, we want to look at another headline. This one has to do with the UN summit that is taking place right now. Keep in mind, the United States or the United Nations main headquarters is where again? In New York City. And New York City is in the United States of America. This is the second beast of Revelation chapter 13, where we're told we'll end up speaking as a dragon. Notice carefully with me on the screen. From the New York Post, September 23rd, 2019. UN only allowing, notice carefully, countries with positive steps to speak at climate summit. United Nations saying humanity is waging war with the planet. The head of the United Nations isn't planning to let just any world leader speak about climate change at Monday's Special Action Summit. Only those with new, specific, and whole plans can command the podium and the ever-warming world's attention. So, sit down, Brazil. Sit down, Saudi Arabia. Sit down, Poland. People can only speak if they come with positive steps. That is kind of a ticket, Guterres said. So, if you have a different agenda, in other words, you will not be given the opportunity to speak at the podium. If you don't believe that climate change is an issue, do you see Revelation 13 here? Where the Bible tells us we will not be able to buy or sell if we don't go along with the majority and receive the mark of the beast. Do you see what Spirit of Prophecy also says? That when these calamities increase, they will blame God's people who are not willing to keep Sunday, are not willing to receive the mark of the beast. So if you have a different view, different ideas, the United Nations is speaking as a dragon. Again, this is within the United States of America. They are telling you if your views on climate change is or are different from the views of the rest of the world, then you will not be given that platform. Notice, it goes on to say, for the first time, there is a serious conflict between, notice carefully, people and who else? Nature. Between people and, let's pause, and what? The planet. Nature worship, as we covered last time. What is the agenda, once again, of the United Nations? Let's keep reading. Guterres said he wants countries to commit to no new coal power plants after 2020 and reduce carbon pollution by 45% in the next century. The purpose of the summit is to come up with new green proposals a year earlier than the 2020 deadline, that is in the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. What is the new green proposal they are referring to? Well, we've looked at this several times before. You've heard of the New Green Deal or the Green New Deal. And behind all of this, it's a Sabbath observance, a Sabbath for the earth. The United Nations wants to control when you can eat, what you can do. They have even given you a 10 commandments of things that you can do. And also notice, it says here from the Balkan Green Energy News, there's the green one. Act now. Here's what you can do to save Earth from climate change. This was September 16, 2019. The United Nations has launched a new climate campaign called Act Now to encourage individual action on climate change. Here is what we have to add. Change your patterns and routines to save the planet, both collective and individual. Change is required. This is what you can do as an individual for what again? To save Earth from a climate catastrophe. What's going to happen to those of us who refuse to go along with this? What's going to happen to those of us when the music starts playing and everybody bow and we remain standing up? What's going to happen? Well, the fiery furnace will be our destiny. But guess what? It is good news, because in that fiery furnace, there will find Jesus Christ. That's what happened in the book of Daniel chapter 3. In the fiery furnace was the best place for the 3 Hebrew boys to be, because Christ himself was there with them. Again, what's behind the United Nations agenda, this Green New Deal proposals? What's behind this? Notice back to the screen again. We looked at this before. It says only one earth, United Nations Environmental Sabbath Earth Rest Day. This publication was assembled with the idea of assisting religious leaders in all denominations to conduct services which would relate to the healing of planet Earth in conjunction with the first United Nations Environmental Sabbath during June 1990. What's the agenda? There it is, brothers and sisters. The agenda is Sunday sacredness. And as I mentioned before, where is the main headquarters of the United Nations? Within the United States of America. That is part of speaking as a dragon. Notice with me what it says here on the screen. From Review and Herald, December 18th, 1888, paragraph 6. We see that those who are now keeping the commandments of God need to be what? Bestir themselves that they may obtain the special help which God alone can give them. They should, notice, work more earnestly. For what reason? To delay as long as possible the threatening calamity. If in our land of boasted freedom, a Protestant government should sacrifice every principle which enters into its constitution and propagate papal falsehood and delusion, well may we plead, it is time for thee, Lord, to work for what? For they have made void thy law. And the enemy is working very fast. The enemy is moving very, very, very fast. And the dragon, Revelation 12:17 tells us, was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of the seed of the woman, which keep the commandments of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ. The Waldensians experience the wrath of the dragon. Soon and very soon, the remnant of the seed of the woman will have to face the dragon. But we can face the dragon with the word of God. Just like Christ faced the enemy in the wilderness with, it is written, it is written, it is written. Notice with me what the Bible tells us here in Isaiah chapter 59. It's time for us to work for the Master. Notice, chapter 59, beginning verse 19. So shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When, notice, when the enemy shall come in like a flood, what will happen? The Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him, And the Redeemer shall come to where? To Zion. And unto them that turn from transgression in Jacob, saith the Lord. Notice verse 21. As for me, this is my covenant with them, saith the Lord. My spirit, notice carefully, that is upon thee, and what else? My words, which I have put in thy mouth, shall not depart out of thine mouth, nor out of the mouth of thy seed, nor out of the mouth of thy seed's seed, saith the Lord, from henceforth and forever. The word of God will keep us from receiving or accepting the deception of the enemy. Also, when the enemy comes in like a flood, as the Bible tells us, the Spirit of the Lord shall do what? Lift up the standard. It's time for us to lift up the standard. It is time for thee to work, O Lord, the psalmist tells us, for they have made void thy law. Well, it is also time for us to work. This is the secondary application there. We have to work for the master while it is day, for the night cometh when no man can work. It is time that we work aggressively, to do aggressive evangelism. And as I mentioned a few days ago, the harvest is ripe right now. With this climate change movement, many are ready to listen to the truth, in spite of the fact some of them are going out there protesting, but they need us at the same time to share some light. It's time for us to work for the master while we have this opportunity. Jesus is coming again. God bless you.